Hello, hello, hello. This is Attorney Don Dennis. I hope that all is well with you. It has been a while since I have been live. I've been just attending to various things. However, I have not forgot about any of my loyal subscribers. I appreciate all of the well wishes. I appreciate all of the great messages that I've received. So I want to thank you. And whether you are watching now or in the future and you're not watching it live, I appreciate you taking the time out to watch this video as we're going to talk about some very interesting topics. As you can see from the title, Mo Money, Mo Problems. We're talking about the situation with Mase and Diddy that kind of resolves around a contractual dispute, something that we talk about all the time on this channel. And people were asking me my opinion on it, so I'm going to give that tonight. So in general, this channel, the Law Office of Don Dennis, talks about how the law affects your business deals, both online and in person. And we teach how you can get paid for your ideas and for your brand and prevent being taken advantage of. Corey, thank you for the welcome back. I appreciate it. I've been eagerly looking to get back, and I hope that this video does not disappoint. As always, these videos are rated R for real and not PG for playing any games whatsoever. No attorney-client relationship is formed with any viewer in my office unless we have a signed agreement on file. And if you appreciate the content, please, please, please hit the like and subscribe button and share it with some people that can benefit. Corey says, felt some realness coming in my bone. That's right. Realness is coming because I'm going to keep it real. And I'm going to tell you straight up what my thoughts are on this subject. So I want to share a little story. I remember vividly being in college at 19 years old, and a friend of mine said, hey, look, I want to buy a TV and some other stuff from Best Buy. Would you go with me and co-sign for me? And I'm 19. I don't even really know what co-sign meant, but they're like, hey, don't worry about it. I'm going to pay for it. You know, I just need, my credit is not that great, and I didn't really have that much of a concept of credit. So I said, sure, no problem. So did I read the paperwork that I was signing? No. Did I read all the fine print? No. And so I really didn't understand, but nevertheless, I signed it. My friend got their TV, took it home. Everybody was happy. And I thought that was the end of the story. Well, a few years later, when I got out of college, I went ahead and, was interested in buying a car and doing some other things in life. And I ran my credit and I see a delinquency, an unpaid account for Best Buy on there. And I'm like, what is all this about? So I call up the credit bureau and they say, hey, apparently you have a TV and some other things that you never paid for, and now it's showing up on your credit report. Well, obviously I wanted a clean credit report, so I ended up paying a lot more for a TV than it was worth, but I was 19 or 20, and I didn't read the fine print. I didn't realize what I was entering into, and I learned a lesson for that. Well, in this situation, what we do know is that when Mase was around 20 years old, he signed a contract with Bad Boy Records and was given $250,000 upon signing that contract. Let me see. In regards to my story, I just told everyone, oh yeah, Corey said, holy, yep, that kind of stuff happens. So he got paid $250,000 upon signing a deal to work with Bad Boy. Now think about it. You're 20 years old. What is on your mind? If someone gives you $250,000 or promises you that amount of money and says, just sign this agreement, what would you be thinking? Would you be thinking, oh, in my experience of life, I need to go get an attorney. I need to review this. No, you're thinking, let me sign this, whatever you want me to sign immediately. And let me get this $250,000 because that's a lot of money. That was a lot of money back then. And that's still a lot of money right now. At that age, when you're young, you just want to do what you love. You want to have fun. You're not thinking about all the repercussions and what may come and what you have to do and what is important and from a business standpoint. So apparently that's what he did. No one's perfect. We all make mistakes and we all live and learn each day. Well, now what we've heard about in the news recently is is Mase saying, let's see what Corey says. We definitely saw Mase bring in the bling. Yes. And when Mase signed it, he did show off. He bought diamonds. He bought fancy clothes. He showed himself off hanging out with models, buying cars and stuff like that. So yeah, he did what we expect any teenager or 20-year-old or 21-year-old to do. That's what people do, especially if you've been living and you haven't had the opportunity to live like that. You want to take advantage. You want to enjoy your life. But now, fast forward over 20 years later, Mase is saying that Diddy stole money from him and stole money from several other bad boy artists. Diddy says in response that Mase owes him over $3 million because he gave him an advance. He gave him money in advance for a project that was an album that was never turned in. And in fact, Diddy says, look, right now you just have a situation where people are upset because maybe they've ran out of money or they've spent their money that they had. And now that the money's dried up, now that the money's gone, they want to blame someone. And so he feels he's just being used as a scapegoat. And in fact, in addition, Diddy said, I have all my receipts. Mase is a fake preacher that con people. And Mase is saying Diddy is mad. So nevertheless, they're just going back and forth, saying what they want to say. However, from a legal standpoint, what was their agreement? What exactly did they agree to at the formation of this relationship? Was there a contract? Now, Diddy says he has receipts. So maybe he means he has a contract. He also said if he's wrong, he's willing to pay. Just show him the evidence. So the thing is this. At the end of the day, it's very simple. All you have to do is pull up your contract and show it. And if someone owes you, that seems like something that could be resolved very quickly. However, the question comes about that we all have faced: how good are your records? How fast can you pull up a copy of a contract that you've signed? Do you have a copy of your car contract that you signed? Can you pull it up in a few minutes? Can you pull up a copy of your lease agreement or your mortgage statement or your home purchase agreement? And a lot of times we are not always the best in our record keeping ability. We've seen that for years. When people have to go get their taxes done, they go off to their accountant or their tax preparer or whomever with a bag of paper just all over the place, not organized whatsoever. So if you were in that same situation, could you quickly pull up a contract? Can you quickly pull up your paperwork to prove what's going on, what's not going on? Because the bottom line is, if there's an agreement, we can clearly, if it's a good agreement, if it's a clear agreement, we should be able to clearly show who's right, who's wrong, or what we need to do to come to an understanding about this. And it's not just a situation that easily succumbs to Mase or anyone else. It can happen to anyone, because I know I have in life had agreements and paperwork where I wasn't that neat and I wasn't that organized and I didn't keep it together. And then when there's a problem, I'm searching all over the place trying to find it. So first and foremost, my response to what they're talking about, if in fact you feel someone's owed you money, or if in fact you feel someone has shorted you concerning money, what was the agreement that you signed and that you said I'm willing to proceed with? Because the other part of that is, you can't really complain about something you agreed to do. If you agreed to do some work, for example, you agreed to do a project, or your business agreed to do something for $10,000, and someone said, okay, I'll hire you, and you signed off on it, but in reality, you should have been paid $20,000 or $30,000. Whose fault is that? Because we are all adults. We all have the opportunity to say yes or no to whatever we want to do. So not only is there agreement, but did you sign it? Were you an adult? And if you didn't have someone look it over and you chose to do what you wanted to do, you can't come back and be upset about it for something that you did willingly. In addition, that goes right into my second point from a legal aspect. And that is, when you're entering into a business deal, you want to make sure that you prepare the contract to protect yourself. You want to make sure that the contract is correct and you're very scrupulous in your efforts when the contract is being written and the terms that you want in there. And then after it's written, taking an opportunity to read it over carefully to make sure it reflects how you feel. So if you're saying you're to be paid $100,000 every 3 months or $10,000 every 2 months, yes, you've said that, but you have to take time to double check to make sure everything that you wanted is in there. Because if it's not in there, whose fault is it? Let's see. Okay, NC Worker says, good evening. Good evening to you. Glad to have you here. We appreciate it. So again, you have to make sure that you define upfront what you want in the contract. And then at the end of the day, before you sign it, everything that you want is in there. It's not enough. And listen, I'll repeat this. It is not enough to say, I want certain terms in the contract and someone tell you it's in there and you don't take the time to go back and check and read the contract carefully before you sign it. So you can't just take someone's word. You have to know for yourself that everything is right. Now, I'm not saying everything you do needs an exhaustive, extensive contract. It's not that serious. Some things are minor. If you're doing a project for $100, it's a one-time thing. You might not need to go through all of this. You don't need to use a shoehorn to put on flip-flops. You can slide your feet on in there and go on about your business, but you have to do what is necessary. And you won't know what's necessary unless you speak to a knowledgeable person to give you advice on it. So if you're signing a contract dealing with purchasing real estate, then most likely you're going to need a real estate broker. Now, we have a question. Corey says, can you debate some terms if you feel they are egregious? Yes, if certain things are completely egregious, completely contrary to public policy, then certain things can be argued, especially if someone has a superior bargaining position and they're trying to take advantage of someone. There are certain situations that, yes, you can argue the correct. And right now, let me just stop everyone. If you're watching this video, whether now or later, please make sure and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because this information can save you a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of agony, a lot of tears, and a lot of money out of your pocket trying to fight over a contract and trying to fight to fix something that could have been done properly the first time. So I definitely ask that you hit that like and subscribe button because this is extremely valuable information. In addition, what is another thing? If we're talking about contracts, if we're talking about money, especially like what we're talking about right here with Mase and Puffy, or Mase making claims that certain artists weren't paid what they were supposed to be paid, have audit rights in the agreement. What are audit rights? Audit rights are the right to go back and check the financial records of the person or the company that's paying you to make sure if they're saying you're going to get 10% or 50% of the money that's generated by the project, how do you know how much you're supposed to get unless you can see the records, see the books? So you have to be able to see the financial records. But if you don't have in the contract audit rights to look at these royalty statements, to look at these financial statements, then you're not giving yourself the ability to do that. So you need to make sure that's in there. You need to make sure you agree with it. What if it says you have audit rights, but you live in California, you have to go to New York to enforce those rights? Or you live in Florida, you have to go to the state of Washington to do it. It makes it even harder on you. So you have to make sure not only that they're in there, but that they make sense to you and that they will work for you. Now, just having audit rights are not enough. You have to take the time, if you have these rights, to enforce them, to check on things, and you have to know what you're looking at. If you have, how many people get credit card statements every month and you see little abbreviations for charges, but you have no idea what those abbreviations are for? And you just say, okay, I'll pay it. Or you get your bank statement and you don't read your bank statement, your checking account statement. You just say, okay, you throw it away, or you get it electronically. You don't even open it up. So you have to be willing to take that time out. If it's important to you, meaning your money, your financial records are important, you have to make and allocate time to carefully review that. Corey says, definitely, it is extremely important because not only can you have audit rights, but you have a time limit. So you can't say, oh, I was supposed to get paid. I think someone did something sneaky. I think someone did something shady several years ago. And, it's been about 5 years, but I'm going to go ahead and challenge it and take a look at it. Well, your right to look at it might have expired. And Corey, like Corey says, sneaky language and charges. Yeah, you have to know how to read these things. And if you don't know how to read the statement, you might need to hire an attorney or hire an auditor or an accountant to go in and check it and prepare a report and let you know, yes, this makes sense, or no, I think you were shorted in this area and you are owed money. And then not just that I'm owed money. Okay, I know I'm owed money, but are you going to request it? What is the way in which you have to request it? So here, if the claim is that, people are owed money, they were shorted, they weren't paid properly. Okay, well, did you notify the person in writing or whatever agreed upon method that was in the agreement? And have you worked to enforce it? Because if not, you're just making baseless claims and can't anything different happen. And again, we're working against the backdrop of what Diddy said. Look, you show me that I owe someone some money and I'll pay him. So how do you rebut that? How do you deal with that? Because at a certain point, you can't just keep making claims and not do anything. Because, from a public standpoint, a lot of people are emotionally driven. And when they see stories in the news, when they read stuff or they hear someone say something, they get into something that's called cognitive distortion with respect to an irrational thought pattern. And they get into emotional reasoning. Well, I feel this is wrong. I feel this person made a valid point. They sound so passionate. So obviously, whatever they say is the truth without verifying it. What's Corey saying here? Corey's saying the problem is when doing these transactions, many people use a pressuring tactic or propose moving on with the deal because of further scrutiny. Yes, a lot of times in deals, people will say, take it or leave it. You have to sign it right now, or this deal is off the table, or I'll go find someone else. So the decision has to be made mentally. Is it worth me signing this? And what would happen in the future after I sign this agreement? Am I really going to be in the best situation? Because once you sign it, it only takes like 5 seconds to put your signature on a document. But how long is it going to take you to get out of that situation? We're talking about something from years ago. I don't think Mase has worked with Puffy in years, and they're still talking about an issue. People talk about old contracts and old deals all the time. But sometimes it's too late to do anything about it. And then what do? But as Corey was saying, it's about having, and like I was just alluding to, it's about emotional reasoning, because you can holler, you can make all kind of posts, all kind of pictures, all kind of updates on Instagram, on your story, on Facebook, saying all kinds of things. And if no one knows what the agreement looks like, and they see how passionate you are, how upset you are, how mad you are, how many likes you have, then a common misperception is, well, they came out first with the story. They seem very upset. They seem very passionate, and that's how they feel. So it must be the truth. It must be correct because that's how they feel. But because how you feel is not the objective truth. The objective truth is defined by facts, not who speaks the loudest. And a lot of times people in the media, people in the public, they jump on that emotional bandwagon, and that bandwagon could be leading you to a ditch or off a cliff when you realize what you were thinking was correct is completely wrong. So you don't want to rely on your emotions when you're making decisions. Oftentimes, leading with your emotions leads to bad decisions and worse outcomes. Corey brought up the idea of being in a pressuring situation where someone is saying, hey, sign this agreement. Well, if you're signing something, you haven't had an opportunity to look it over. You didn't have an opportunity to maybe even run it past your friend, and you rush out and sign it. What's going to happen if you're wrong? What's going to happen if you miss something? What's going to happen if there's a mistake in the paperwork and it never got fixed? I'm sure you've heard of situations where people have signed agreements And one said, oh, just go ahead and sign it. It's a mistake here, but we'll fix that. Sometimes people don't go back and keep their word and fix it. And then you're stuck. And then people get amnesia. And now you have to deal with the consequences of what you've signed. And it's a problem. You know, if you want to play in the big leagues, if you want to get out on the playground, it's like getting in the sandbox. And yes, people will help. If you get out on the sandbox and you get in the swing, somebody will push you. Think about it. You see a little kid, someone's just pushing them back and forth, and they're having a good time. But at a certain point, if you want to keep going, you're going to have to kick your legs when the person stops pushing. And you're not going to go very far if you're not doing it on your own and you're relying on someone else to keep pushing you up, to keep making you go high. At a certain point, you're going to have to put in your own effort if you want to succeed. That effort could be manifested in hiring the right people around you to look out for you, the right attorney, the right accountant, the right advisors to give you guidance. And if you don't have that, you could be setting yourself up for potential failure. So as we're talking about here, if you're signing an agreement, especially if it pertains to money, you got to have everything proper and in order. Because once you do, and once people pay you, people are very unsympathetic to how you feel, or you should have gotten more money, or something should have went this way or that way. Because at the end of the day, you took the money and you went off. You know, here in California, it's inevitable that one day or another, we're going to have an earthquake. We have earthquake. We have, for the most part, we don't have the earthquakes that you see in the movies like San Andreas, where everything is falling to the ground, but you have a few small ones that shake you. And if you come out here and you've never been in an earthquake and the ground starts shaking, you start running around because you don't know what to do. However, if you've been here for any bit of time and you feel the ground shake a little bit early in the morning, most likely you're going to stay in the bed and go right back to sleep because you're used to it. In business, there are going to be disruptions. There are going to be earthquakes. But when you have your paperwork in order, when you have a team around you, when you have insurance, you kind of can sleep through these little earthquakes, these little tremors, and realize it's nothing major. Everything is going to be okay. But when you don't have it, it's always going to be a very large disruption to your peace of mind. So I encourage you to make sure you have things in place to protect yourself up front, to understand what you're signing up front, so you don't. And then if there is a challenge, if there is a problem, you have your paperwork to support your position, and you're moving off of evidence and not emotion. Again, this has been the Law Office of Don Dennis. I appreciate everyone that's watching this video, everyone that's going to watch this video. I hope that this was beneficial to you. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and check me out, because I will be bringing out more content and analyzing more current events in the news to help you make the best decisions and also answer your questions on how to look at things from an attorney's point of view. Have a great day. And Corey, thanks again. The twins are doing well.